So here's the truth. Most agency owners aren't running a business. They're running a never-ending to-do list disguised as a business. And the moment that they stop working, everything just stops with them. But the agencies that end up being able to grow fast are the ones that free up the founder's time while keeping quality high. They just do things differently. They build a simple system, practical system, or SOPs that their team can actually follow. So in this video, I'll show you how to write SOPs that reduce chaos, remove you from the day-to-day questions, operations, and create freedom without losing control. And this is part one of our Systemize Your Agency series. Today, we'll build the foundation. Next, we'll plug in these SOPs into the delivery infrastructure that makes everything run smoothly. So let's first start with what is an SOP. SOPs are designed to be able to create clarity, repeatability, and ultimately freedom. They're not these like really long documents, these like corporate manuals, if you will. I remember the first version of an SOP at an agency was like hundreds of pages long. I want you to think more recipe, the steps, and why it ultimately matters, the expected outcome that allows someone to be able to just take it, run with it, do it. Ultimately, the ideal place to be would be someone being able to take exactly from an SOP and be able to do something for the first time and being able to take it from beginning to end, understanding exactly what to do step by step to take, but in a small bite-size oriented version, the same way that a recipe ultimately would. So the SOPs that we want to create are for things that are repeatable, that are mission critical tasks. So here's how I want you to think about it. If it's something that is being done on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a very reoccurring oriented basis, those are the types of things that you want to prioritize your SOPs for, especially if they're immediately touching you as the agency owner. How can I get them off of my plate and give them to someone else that allows for them to be able to take it fully? So where is the specific thing? How do I do this? What's the next step? Those types of questions that are coming up for you every single day, those are the types of things that you want to be creating an SOP around. And so I want you to think about a workflow, if you will. Your agency functions with loads of different systems that are working together, but sequentially from beginning to the signed SOW when the client first signs a contract to the deliverable of the SOW if you're project oriented, or the ongoing deliverables from a retainer perspective. But realizing that those sequences of steps that you're taking are ultimately the different SOPs that are needed. And so thinking about them in the bite-sized chunks that are necessary to allow for you to be able to build the agency, that workflow allows for you to take what feels insurmountable, being able to create systems for the entire organization, but actually just doing that small little bite-sized chunk, the Jenga block in the Jenga tower, if you will. So the more that you're able to actually systemize your agency, the less chaos, because there's less questions, there's more understanding of the thing that needs to happen next within your agency. And so while you're starting to go and drive down into writing an SOP, how to go about it to create simplicity and clarity for the team. So you want to make sure that you're doing so in a couple of different formats, recognizing that people can be visual learners, they can be auditory learners, they can also learn by doing. The realization is that you need to be able to cover the gamut of each one of those pieces. But to start with, I want you to think about building things simply in bullet points, not paragraph-oriented format, keeping the language as simple as you possibly can, and if possible, adding screenshots, links, tools, templates that you're able to utilize, assuming that you have them. The things that are paramount to include inside this SOP is what exactly is the purpose for this? Why do we have this SOP or this process in the first place? What does it prevent? What does it do? How does it create for greater quality? How does it create for greater client retention? Like, what exactly does it do within the organization? Then make sure that you include all the related documents, systems, softwares, tools, templates that are related specifically to that SOP. And then make sure that it is clear on who owns this. Who's the person that is ultimately accountable to this getting done? And then what is the applicability, or when is this done, the frequency of it, or within a system of a workflow, the mapping of that workflow, when does this get done, in kind of what order? What is the thing that happens before? What gives an indication this needs to happen? And then what are the next steps after this SOP? Is there another process that we follow? Is this submitted to someone for review? What exactly is the next step following the completion of this process, or is it just done? Then finally, the expected output. So what does complete look like, and how is quality maintained? So if something goes wrong, who gets involved? Who's the person that needs to be consulted? How do you escalate that problem to make sure that quality is there? So what is the checks and balances? How do you ensure that this actually gets done to the degree that you want to? One of quick little tidbit of a piece of advice on how to do this really simply is you can record a Loom video or a Vimeo video or just a screenshot or a screen capture video that allows for you to be able to document the real process. So capture the nuance, actually just articulating the things that are going on. Think out loud as much as you possibly can in this video. It helps the people that are able to learn by watching being able to actually go and do those things. And it also allows for you to be able to take that information, that Loom link that you can ultimately provide in the video, but it also, if you want to go kind of the extra mile, you can take it and scribe it. There's a system called Scribe that can do that screen capture. But the reason why this is particularly useful is that you can then take it and actually utilize AI to create the SOP for you. So it's incredibly simple if you have the format by which you're actually creating this SOP, and now you have a Loom video that's walking through the thinking where you're talking about the purpose and who owns it, the steps that you're taking, and exactly what is the outcome that you're looking for, and exactly how do you maintain quality, and what is the escalation process. If you go through each one of those components that are required for the SOP, then you can take AI to just go through and create that step by step if you're articulating it out loud. That allows for the new hire or someone that is doing something for the third time or just needs a refresher in what it is that they need to do, to take the system that you've already documented, either watch it, refresh their memory by looking at what is the step after this thing that I just did, or going back and referring to, hey, something's gone wrong with this, how do I confirm and who do I go to, that ultimately answers their questions. AI is particularly useful if you've already done the thinking for it. So you are putting into place the systems, the steps, the process that your agency follows, that institutional knowledge that you have here, and documenting it in a Loom video that then AI can just organize into the format of an SOP. And then finally, the piece that's really important is that you need to be able to streamline the SOP updates, because one of the things that is incredibly frustrating is making sure that they are continually updated. So those questions that come up, the things that ends up being updated, a system has been changed. If you're like, let's say a media management agency, you're running meta ads as an example, it ends up creating for problems when the platform changes. And so how do you actually go about either removing unnecessary steps that's creating for misalignment? How do you go about automating pieces that are ultimately necessary? But who's the person that owns this SOP and making sure that it's being reviewed when things need to be updated? My favorite way about going about this is, if there's a question that comes up, is go back to the SOP. That means that ultimately the SOP is unclear. If a problem comes up, then this means that the SOP either needs to be refined or it needs to be made more easily available if it was documented in that SOP so the person is aware of it. But ultimately, it's a great mechanism by which to ensure that the SOPs are continually updated, because if there's a problem, that means that the system needs to change, in my viewpoint. Then finally, make sure that there is a clear designated owner. So each SOP needs someone that is accountable to it. So who's the person that is accountable, that is make sure that the actual outcome takes place, and then who's the responsible party? The responsible party is the person, if you're familiar with RACI, the responsible party is the person that's doing it. The accountable party is the person that ultimately is the one that is accountable to it, is the person that's responsible to make sure that it actually comes to fruition, that the expected outcome actually happens. And so you have the person doing the task, the responsible party, and then you have the person that ensures that it actually takes place, the accountable person. There may be someone that is consulted to ensure that this is moving forward. There may be someone that needs to be informed just because let's say it's an account manager, needs to be informed that this was completed or not, that allows for them to communicate that to the client. So just ensuring that you have clarity as to how exactly this is being owned. And then the thing that ends up being one of the key problems for a lot of SOPs is that they're not made easily accessible. And so it's vital that this information is easily accessible to the team. My favorite way about going about this is two things. One, having a central folder that has a table of contents, if you will, that is a Google Doc or a Word document that has links to all of those SOPs. It's broken down by department. And sometimes you have the same SOP listed multiple times because it touches multiple departments, but you have a table of contents that references out to the other SOPs. And then you have folders by department that breaks down each one of those SOPs and an individual document. Again, think recipe style to this SOP versus this long, large document that becomes very time prohibitive to be able to go through. It needs to be something that I can easily digest in a couple of minutes and then go do the thing that I need to get going. But true expert level in implementing this is having checklists and SOPs directly within your project management. So if something is assigned to someone, they have a link to the SOP. So if they forget, they have an easy mechanism to go follow the SOP first before needing to come to you. The reality is that people do not like to look dumb or look like they forgot something. And the reality is that because of that, they will either end up doing one of two things. They will avoid asking the question as long as they possibly can until it becomes a problem, or two, they will just not do the asking at all and just do what they think is best, which is then avoiding the process that then ends up creating a problem. So we want to avoid this by making them easily accessible so that the person doesn't have to ask the same question twice, because sometimes things don't fully cement. And being able to reference an SOP if they forgot how to do something that they should remember how to to do, and it just allows for your team to be able to make action, take action, and get ultimately to the expected outcome that you're looking for in a meaningful way. So now you have the foundation of a business that runs without you. With simple SOPs, your team will actually follow. But SOPs only work when your team is aligned, productive, and working inside a structure that supports them. So before you move on to part 2 of this series, make sure your team isn't accidentally sabotaging your systems. So watch this next video where I break down how high-performing creative agencies manage remote teams, eliminate bottlenecks, and boost productivity without burning anyone out. I'll see you there.